The final leadership lesson that I've learned from these interviews, and that, of course, is be resilient. How you deal with life's inevitable setbacks, as I said earlier, is really the most critical thing that sets apart the successful women I've interviewed over the years. And I end with this as a related but separate lesson, because while failures and mistakes are often setbacks, setbacks aren't always failures. Losing your job to massive downsizing, having your house burned down, a family member getting terribly sick, these are all setbacks, and they will find each and every one of us. A great example of a resilient leader, and one that I go back to when I think about challenging times, is a woman named Carly Fiorina. Going back to HP in a different era than Meg Whitman, Carly Fiorina was named CEO of HP in the 90s. And this was a really newsworthy event, because this was the first woman to ever take the helm of such a massive company in corporate America. All eyes were on her. And after a couple of years, Carly had a disagreement with the board, management disagreement, and she lost her job. But it wasn't just like any of us losing her job. She lost her job as a woman at the helm of one of the most prominent companies in America. And she was vilified for it day in and day out. And she said, in our conversations, she said, quote, "The worst thing I thought could have happened, that I could have imagined, happened. I lost my job in the most public way possible, and the press had a field day with it all over the world. She couldn't walk out of her house without a media question. She couldn't open a newspaper and not see her face on the front page. People questioning her leadership in light of her gender. Very, very difficult time for her. But what she thought was the worst thing that could happen actually wasn't. Fast forward to 2008, she decided to run for Senate in the state of California, and she's literally driving up in her car to announce her candidacy in Sacramento. Driving in her car, she gets a call from her doctor. A couple of weeks earlier, she had gone for a mammogram. They had found a lump in one of her breasts, and as she's about to announce the candidacy for Senate, she got the call that no one wants to get, and that is that she had cancer indeed. And after a double mastectomy, chemotherapy, grueling radiation treatment, she thought that the worst thing that could happen, facing death in such a meaningful way, had actually happened in her life. Not to mention, she did this while running for political office, which is an all-encompassing, such an extreme test as a leader. But that wasn't the worst thing for Carly that could possibly happen. She said she finally realized what that was when she was on the campaign trail and she got the fateful call that her stepdaughter, Lorianne, had passed away. Her stepdaughter, who she'd helped raise since she was a child. She finally figured out what that worst thing was. And she said in a press conference a couple of days later after finding out that news, she said, "This isn't easy to run for office. We've had a tough couple of years in my family. I battled cancer. I lost my hair. We lost our daughter." And what was remarkable is that despite that truly devastating chain of events, she kept moving forward. She summoned the strength to move forward when, honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. Incredible, remarkable woman. And she always reminds me, of the saying Darwin says that it's not the strongest of species that survive, but the most adaptive to change. The ability to adapt, to bend and not break, is key to surviving and ultimately triumphing over tragedy. Now, we all have our different ways of coping when calamity strikes. But what I've observed over the years is that some women go into shock. 10 years after an event, they still can't get over it. They can't move forward. It's almost a paralysis. And it reminds me that the opportunity to move forward, to find a vision, to find a hope is critical in our lives. And developing that resilience to take on some of the most unimaginable events is something that time and time again I see with the power women around the world. So these are the lessons that the great women I've interviewed have shared with me and that I hope will be of use to you today. Resilience in the face of life's setbacks, embracing risk and learning from failure, being unafraid to take the unconventional path, and encompassing all of these, self-awareness. What I want to leave you with today is that the keys to success, however you define success, is to own who you are and what you want, without apology and without chagrin. You don't have to pretend to be a humanitarian if all you really want to be is financially independent, or start your own business, or raise your family at home, whatever it may be. Don't spend your life trying to succeed at something that you really don't care about doing, or trying to win a game that you never cared about in the first place. By embracing rather than fighting who you are, you'll not only be more successful, but more importantly, you'll be a lot happier in your life. These are the elements that unite the ordinary women who have achieved extraordinary success. And now I know that following your ambitions and achieving goals means that you have to make tough choices, brutal sacrifices. But remember, no one has a smooth ascendancy to the top. There will always be curveballs. There will always be setbacks. So where do you look when you face these challenges? Where do you look for inspiration? Where do you look for guidance, or even just a pep talk when you're exhausted, coming home and you've had a terrible day? History is one place to look, as are the stories behind accomplished leaders, many of the women like the women I've discussed today. But equally important, I would look to your left and to your right, to the women in this room. What a great network this is. Understanding the experiences of other women and hearing their insights and experiences may never provide a point-by-point guide to success that guarantees success, but we may be able to gain a better perspective on where we're going today, how we're going to get there, and what shape we're going to be in the end, whatever that place may be. So it's great to have the chance to meet some new women and continue to do so in the future. So thank you.